So picture this. You are standing right at the edge of this pristine, perfectly still forest lake.
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah, and it is breathtakingly beautiful. The canopy overhead is super thick, filtering the sunlight into these like beams of gold. The water is cool, it's inviting, and you are absolutely dying of thirst.
Oh, that feeling where your whole body is just screaming for water?
Exactly. Every single cell is telling you to drink. But as you step closer, something stops you dead in your tracks. You look down at the muddy bank,
Right.
and you see footprints.
Okay, just normal animal tracks.
Well, thousands of them, all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Deer, boar, smaller creatures. And they're all leading straight down to the water's edge. But here is where the chill runs down your spine. Absolutely none of those footprints lead back out. Not a single one.
Oh, wow. So it's an environment that promises salvation, basically, but delivers this absolute certainty of death.
Right. The ultimate invisible trap.
Yeah, a scenario that demands some serious lateral thinking. Like, how do you beat a completely unwinnable game?
And that, my friends, is exactly what we are serving up for you today. Welcome to Simplified Awakening.
Yes, welcome.
If you love gaining deep knowledge quickly and, unraveling these ancient, powerful mysteries, please humbly hit that subscribe button. Like this video and share your valuable comments below.
We always love reading the comments.
Always. So our mission today for this deep dive is to extract the rich, factual narrative of a single, powerful, ancient Buddhist birth story. It's called the Nalapana Jataka.
Right, which is story number 20 from the massive Jataka text collection.
Yeah. And for anyone who might be new to this specific type of literature, could you give a quick overview?
Sure. So the Jataka texts aren't just like simple bedtime fables. They are an enormous, really ancient collection of tales that detail the previous existences of the Buddha.
Before he attained enlightenment. Right?
Exactly, before he became Siddhartha Gautama. So throughout these hundreds of lifetimes, he often appears as an animal, a stag, a bird, or in today's case, a monkey.
But he's never just a regular animal in these stories.
No, not at all.
He's always a leader. And more importantly, he's like a supreme problem solver. I've always viewed these stories less as magical fantasy and more like ancient training manuals for critical thinking.
I love that. That is a phenomenal way to frame it.
Because the future Buddha, he uses keen observation, logic, and profound wisdom to outsmart danger. It's essentially like Sherlock Holmes with fur.
Sherlock Holmes with fur. Yeah, and the solutions the Bodhisatta, that's the future Buddha, employs, they are deeply grounded in mindfulness and strategic observation.
So it's not just brute force.
Never brute force. And the story we are looking at today is perhaps one of the greatest examples of a leader using environmental data to overcome a seemingly supernatural threat.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Interestingly, we actually don't start with the monkeys.
Right, the framing narrative.
Yeah, the frame begins in the present timeline of the historical Buddha.
Yeah.
The master is on an alms pilgrimage through the Kosala country, accompanied by a really large community of his monks.
And I think we need to ground that reality for a second, right? Because an alms pilgrimage in ancient India wasn't just some casual, pleasant stroll.
No, definitely not.
These are individuals walking barefoot in the oppressive heat. They're covered in dust. And they rely entirely on the generosity of local villages for their single daily meal.
It was a life of extreme asceticism, super practical. I mean, they carried almost nothing.
Exactly. So when they stop at this village called Nalapana, which translates quite literally to cane drink,
which is a very specific name.
Very specific. When they stop there, they have very practical, mundane needs. They're dwelling at a place called Kirakavana near a local pool. And the senior monks instruct the novices to go gather some cane sticks from the surrounding grove.
And they want these canes for a super utilitarian reason. They want to make needle cases.
Right, needle cases.
Because when your entire worldly wardrobe consists of, like, a few robes, keeping your sewing needle safe so you can patch holes is an absolute top priority.
Yeah, and bamboo or cane is perfectly suited for this naturally. It grows in these segments, separated by solid, woody knots or joints.
Oh, right, those little dividers inside the plant.
Exactly. If you cut a section right below a knot and then right above the next one, you instantly have a natural, hollow tube with a solid bottom. It's just a ready-made container.
But here is where the fabric of reality gets a little weird in the story.
Things get very strange.
The novices go to cut these specific canes around the specific pool in Nalapana, and they discover something literally impossible. The canes are completely hollow from top to bottom,
There isn't a single internal knot in any of the plants growing around the water.
which is a complete biological anomaly. It defies the fundamental anatomy of the plant species.
It really does.
I mean, I have to pause here because it's easy to just brush past this when reading, but imagine the confusion. If you chop down a tree, you expect solid wood.
Right, obviously.
Finding a perfectly hollow bamboo shoot would be like chopping down an oak tree and finding out the trunk is made of, like smooth, manufactured PVC pipe.
That's a great analogy.
Biology doesn't just spontaneously decide to stop building structural joints in an entire grove of plants. The monks must have been completely baffled.
Oh, they absolutely were. They recognized immediately that this was not natural at all. So they gathered these impossible hollow canes and bring the mystery straight to the master.
They basically asked the Buddha, what is wrong with this forest?
Yeah, what's going on here? And the Buddha's response is fascinating. He doesn't say, it's a weird soil mutation or a different species.
Right.
He simply replies that this anomaly is the direct result of his own ordinance from times gone by.
He's basically telling them that a past action of his was so laden with intention that it permanently altered the physical environment.
Yes, which plunges us directly into the deep past, into the real meat of our story.
So we were transported back in time, centuries or perhaps millennia earlier, to when this very same village of Nalapana didn't even exist yet.
It was just a thick, untamed, deeply dangerous forest.
And in this timeline, the Bodhisatta has been born as the king of the monkeys. The text actually gives us some striking physical and logistical details here.
It does. He's massive, right?
Yeah, the size of a red deer fawn. But more importantly, he is the leader of a staggering 80,000 monkeys.
Which, if you think about it, is an incomprehensibly large troop to manage, feed, and protect.
Hold on, I need to challenge the scale for a second because this is where ancient texts usually lose me. 80,000 monkeys. Let's be real about animal behavior here.
Okay, let's look at the biology.
If you've ever seen a troop of macaques, or honestly even just a flock of pigeons in a city park, you know that mob mentality rules.
Oh, completely.
If one bolts for food or, a puddle of water, panic sets in immediately and you just have a stampede. Managing a dozen monkeys is chaos. Managing 80,000 is biologically absurd. How does the text possibly justify them operating as a cohesive unit?
Well, that friction you are feeling, that disbelief, that is exactly what the text wants you to focus on.
Really?
Yeah. The sheer unlikeliness of that discipline highlights his supreme capability as a leader. It implies an immense, almost superhuman level of prior conditioning and trust between him and the troop.
Ah, okay. So it's intentional to show how good of a king he is.
Exactly. The Monkey King knows the environment is actively trying to kill them. The forest is littered with poisonous trees and lakes haunted by predatory spirits. So he institutes this massive collective behavioral protocol.
The golden rule for survival.
Yes. He issues a strict directive to his 80,000 subjects. He tells them, my friends, in this forest there are trees that are poisonous and lakes that are haunted by ogres.
You must never eat a new fruit or drink from a new water source without asking me first.
It is a mandate of ultimate restraint, and we see this put to the ultimate test when the troop, exhausted and wandering through the dense jungle, finally stumbles upon a beautiful, cool lake they have never seen before.
This is the lake from our opening hook.
Yes, it is. And let's look at the psychology of this moment. You have 80,000 primates. They have been traveling for a long time. They are parched.
The biological drive for water when you're dehydrated is like one of the most powerful, overwhelming instincts a living creature possesses.
Absolutely. Every evolutionary alarm bell in their brains is screaming at them to plunge their faces into that water.
I mean, if I'm out on a long hike in the sun and I run out of water, by the time I get back to my car, I am not thinking of anything else.
Yeah.
I am unscrewing my water bottle before the door is even open.
Right. The impulse is just blinding.
It really is.
It's what psychologists might call an amygdala hijack, where the primal, emotional part of the brain completely overrides the rational prefrontal cortex. But here, the monkey troop does the impossible.
They don't rush in.
They don't rush in. They reach the edge of the water, they sit down, and they wait for their leader.
They introduce a pause, which is so hard to do.
Profound pause. Think of the brain's impulse like a tripped electrical circuit breaker. The energy is surging, threatening to cause damage. But if you can build in a mechanism that forces like a 5-second delay...
A pause between the stimulus of the water and the response of drinking.
Exactly. If you have that pause, the circuit resets. Reason can flow back in. This ancient text is brilliantly outlining the mechanics of emotional regulation.
Wow.
In that agonizing pause on the muddy bank, their survival is completely secured.
It's such an incredible lesson for anyone listening
Mm-hmm.
because we live in a world where everything is designed to remove that pause.
Yeah.
You know, click here, buy this, react to this comment instantly.
Instant gratification.
Yeah. The monkeys survived because they tolerated the discomfort of waiting. And it's a very, very good thing they did. Because when the Monkey King finally arrives, he doesn't just casually wave them in.
No, he goes into full detective mode. First, he praises his troop for holding the line, and then he begins a meticulous investigation of the scene.
He doesn't even look at the water right away, does he?
No, he looks at the environment surrounding the water. He makes a careful, slow circuit all the way around the lake.
He is gathering data. And the data he finds is terrifying. He looks at the mud on the banks, and he sees the footprints of countless animals.
But he notices the pattern.
Right. Every single footprint points down into the water. Not a single footprint comes back up.
It is a brilliantly deductive moment. He doesn't need to see the monster to know the monster is there. The absence of returning footprints is irrefutable evidence. He immediately concludes the lake is the domain of a water ogre.
Let's talk about that term for a second. The text calls it an ogre, or a yaka in the original language. This isn't just a generic, Godzilla monster splashing around, right?
No, not at all. In ancient Indian cosmology, a yaka is often a local nature spirit. Sometimes they're benevolent, sometimes they're highly malevolent.
And this one is definitely malevolent.
Very much so. When they are malevolent, they are incredibly dangerous, but they're also bound by very specific, rigid rules. They usually have a localized domain.
Like a specific tree or something.
Yeah, a specific tree, a specific crossroads, or in this case, the boundaries of a specific lake.
So the rule of this haunting is absolute. The ogre only has power over those who physically enter the water. If you stay on the bank, you're completely out of his jurisdiction. He cannot touch you.
Which creates this fascinating psychological standoff. The water ogre realizes this massive feast of monkeys has stopped at the shoreline, so he rises out of the water, revealing himself.
And he looks horrifying.
Oh, the text describes him as terrifying. He has a blue belly, a white face, and red hands and feet.
He looks like an absolute nightmare.
And he demands to know why they aren't coming in to drink. He says, "You are dying of thirst. Come down and drink." He is straight up taunting them.
Because he knows biology is on his side. He fully expects them to eventually crack. 80,000 monkeys. The thirst is going to overcome the discipline.
He fully expects them to surrender to their own biology.
So we have an impossible paradox.
Yeah.
Brute force won't work because you cannot fight a supernatural water spirit in his own element.
Right.
But ignoring the problem won't work either because you have 80,000 subjects who will literally die of dehydration if they don't get water soon.
Mm-hmm.
You need a third option. You have to somehow extract the resource without triggering the trap.
And this is where the Monkey King shows his genius. He tells the ogre directly, "We are going to drink your water, but we will not step a single foot into your lake. Not one."
The ogre must have found that hilarious. Like, how do you drink from a lake without getting close enough to touch the water?
The Monkey King utilizes the surrounding environment. He sees the thick grove of cane plants growing all around the bank, and he realizes they can act as natural straws.
Okay, yes.
He declares that all 80,000 of them will take a cane and drink from the lake as easily as drinking through the hollow stalk of a lotus flower.
But wait, this brings us right back to the biological anomaly we discussed earlier. Canes have knots.
They do.
They have those thick, solid wooden joints inside. You can't use raw, natural bamboo as a straw. If you dip a 4-foot bamboo pole into a lake and suck on the other end, you're just going to get a mouthful of splinters and a solid block of wood. The physics just don't work.
And this is the pivot point of the entire narrative, where observation and strategy give way to something transcendent. The Bodhisatta performs something called a psychakirya, which translates to an act of truth.
Let's break that down because a lot of translations just say he, quote, miraculously blew the knots out through the sheer force of his will, which sounds like he just cast a magic spell.
Right.
But it's more complex than that, isn't it?
Much more complex. An act of truth is a very specific mechanism in Buddhist and ancient Indian philosophy. It is not magic. It is closer to spiritual physics.
Spiritual physics. I like that.
The belief is that if a person has lived a life of absolute, unwavering virtue, if their mind and actions are perfectly aligned with universal truth, they can make a formal declaration of that virtue. And the metaphysical weight of that absolute truth is so heavy that it literally forces physical reality to bend to accommodate it.
Oh, that is fascinating. So it's like gravity. A massive object bends space-time around it simply by existing. The Monkey King's virtue is so massive that when he makes his declaration, physical matter, like the wooden knots inside the cane, has no choice but to yield.
That is a perfect analogy. He doesn't meticulously drill out 80,000 canes. He takes a single cane, reflects deeply on his own supreme virtue and his compassionate desire to save his followers, and he commands the cane to be hollow.
It just happens.
He blows into it and the knots vanish. He then makes a sweeping declaration that every cane growing around this lake shall be hollow.
The physical matter of the plants immediately aligns with his will. The internal dividers just cease to exist.
Yep. And with these newly perfectly hollowed out tubes, the entire troop of 80,000 monkeys safely slakes their thirst. They just sit comfortably on the dry bank, dip their hollow canes into the water, and drink their fill.
Leaving the water ogre completely defeated.
Entirely.
He is trapped in his own domain, entirely empty-handed, just watching this massive feast consume his water without ever crossing his boundary. It is the ultimate checkmate. The Monkey King respected the ogre's rigid rules, but he found a lateral loophole that bypassed the trap entirely.
And if we connect this triumphant moment in the ancient past back to the present timeline of the Buddha, the very beginning of our story, we get a stunning synthesis.
All right, the frame narrative.
This act of truth wasn't just a temporary localized event to save his troop for one afternoon.
Right, the reality-bending effect stuck.
The Monkey King's action, driven by such intense compassion and profound wisdom, permanently altered the very genetic expression of the canes growing at that specific lake. That trait was locked in forever.
So centuries later, when those dusty, wandering novices from the Buddha's camp went to cut canes to make their needle cases, they found them completely hollow. The knots had never grown back.
Exactly. It beautifully illustrates a core theme of these texts. Actions of profound wisdom and intense ethical purity don't just fade away into history. They leave indelible physical marks on the world. The hollow canes at Nalapana are a living, biological monument to that ancient moment of salvation and leadership.
I love that concept so much. It elevates the story from, like, a clever trick to a permanent shift in reality caused by a leader protecting his people.
It's powerful.
But we aren't quite finished, because the Buddha never just tells a story of the past and leaves it hanging in the air.
No, the architecture of a Jataka tale always requires a conclusion that we might call a karmic reveal. The Buddha takes the actors from the ancient mythological past and identifies exactly who they are in his present-day audience.
It's a way of showing the vast continuity of character and relationships across countless lifetimes. It's like the ultimate "where are they now" segment, but spanning thousands of years. So let's connect the actors. Let's start with the antagonist, the terrifying water ogre with the blue belly who tried to devour everyone. Who did the Buddha reveal him to be?
The Buddha reveals that the water ogre was none other than Devadatta.
Now, for listeners who might not be super deep into Buddhist history, Devadatta is a massive recurring figure.
Yes, Devadatta was actually a cousin of the Buddha and became his most notorious historical rival. He was a monk who became utterly consumed by jealousy, pride, and ambition.
He was a real problem.
He constantly schemed against the Buddha, caused a massive schism in the monastic community, and even attempted to assassinate the Buddha on several occasions.
He was a constant predatory threat. So it makes total thematic sense that in a past life he was literally a predator waiting in the dark, eager to consume the unwary, a trap waiting to be sprung.
Perfect parallel.
Okay, what about the followers? The 80,000 thirsty monkeys who showed such incredible discipline to sit on the bank and wait for their leader.
Those monkeys, the Buddha explained, were the very disciples sitting in front of him listening to the story. The community of monks.
That is a beautiful connection. It shows that their bond with him, their willingness to follow his guidance, to trust his vision, and to exercise extreme discipline in the face of temptation, wasn't just a recent development in this one life. That dynamic had been forged and tested over many lifetimes.
And finally, the hero of our story. The resourceful, incredibly observant Monkey King who bent physical reality to save his troop.
That, of course, was the Buddha himself.
It reinforces his identity not just as a philosopher delivering sermons, but as an eternal protector and a practical guide. Someone who uses supreme, applied wisdom to find a way out of impossible traps, lifetime after lifetime.
It really is a masterful narrative. It ties everything together so flawlessly. You've got the physical mystery of the hollow canes in the present, the intense survival suspense of the haunted lake in the past, and the profound psychological lesson of mindfulness bridging the two.
It's a complete package.
So, to summarize this for you, the Simplified Awakening listener, this deep dive gives you exactly what your channel thrives on. It hooks the audience with the visceral suspense of a monster in a lake and an impossible riddle of survival. But underneath that suspense, it delivers an incredibly rich framework for critical thinking.
Yeah, it teaches us about the absolute necessity of emotional regulation, the power of the pause.
Exactly.
It demonstrates that the most obvious path, rushing headlong into the water simply because you feel thirsty, is sometimes a fatal trap. True wisdom lies in stopping at the edge, carefully observing the footprints in the mud, and recognizing when the environment is rigged against you.
You don't have to play by the monster's rules if you possess the clarity to hollow out your own cane and build a new path.
Well said.
Thank you. And to fulfill that final request for your channel's audience, to all the viewers out there watching this video, stay hooked for the next story.
But before we completely sign off, this ancient narrative raises a vital question that extends far beyond the dense forests of ancient Kosala.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because we don't live in a jungle haunted by literal water ogres. We live in a modern world characterized by absolute unending information overload.
We really do.
We are constantly rushing. We are perpetually thirsty, thirsty for the next notification, the next piece of outrage on social media, the next quick hit of dopamine from an endless feed of content. We see a fresh, glittering pool of water, and our biological instinct is to dive right in head first without a single second of hesitation.
Which brings us right back to the image we started with, the muddy bank and the tracks.
So here's a final lingering thought for you to ponder long after this deep dive ends. As you navigate the incredibly dense, chaotic jungle of your own daily life, what are the modern water holes you are eagerly diving into without first stopping to check if there are any footprints leading back out?